Are you mastering your fears, or are your fears mastering you? Keep watching. This is Life Mastery Gym. I'm Damon, and I teach people just like you cutting-edge NLP processes and techniques so that you can master your life and take charge of your destiny. So if that sounds good, make sure you click that subscribe button right down here so you can get these videos on a regular basis. For many years, for most of my adult life, and even before that, in my teenage years especially, fear kept me from doing so many things that I wanted to do. It limited me so much until I decided to master it. So by the end of this video, I'm going to show you one of the tools that I use to overcome fear. And it's really a never-ending thing. I mean, fear, if we think about what fear is, it's actually something that does something actually really, really good for us. But more on that in a moment. I would like to hear from you. What does fear hold you back from? Or what is fear right now holding you back from something that you want to do? Let me know in the comment section right down below and I will respond to you. First, let's understand what fear really is, because a lot of people come to me for coaching and they say, hey, can you just get rid of this fear for me? It's just getting in my way and it's what's stopping me from doing what I want to do. Can we just get rid of it? Can you hypnotize me and just make it go away? And I would never want to get rid of the mechanism that creates fear in myself or in any client, because fear is actually something that's quite valuable. The problem with fear is when it gets out of control, when you put all of your attention on the fear so that the fear becomes more of your reality. It takes up more of your attention than the other things, the logic and the reasoning about what actually is going on around you. And if we get too engaged in emotions and feelings, that can happen, because emotions and feelings, while they're absolutely valid and we need our emotions and feelings and we need to feel them, they don't actually tell us a whole lot of good information about what's going on around us. And fear is definitely one of those. We are the descendants of the people who had fear, where fear saved them from dying. So they were able to pass on their genes, which is what you're a descendant of. So we have this fear that's hardwired into us, but our environments have changed so much. Well, at least most of our environments have changed so much. And in most countries, you don't have to fear everything. You don't have to, when you go out of your home, it's not like there's something that's going to threaten you every step and everywhere you go and every corner you turn. So fear is sort of misplaced now. And when we have fears now, we fear things that usually are not life-threatening. So that's where we run into trouble. But let's understand first that fear is not your foe. Fear is your friend. It can alert you to things, and often does, that you need to pay attention to. And this is very, very important, because we need to pay attention to certain things so that we can solve problems before they happen. We can anticipate things so that we don't get ourselves into trouble. And in some cases, we're talking about things that are life-threatening that fear can help us avoid and save us from. So we don't want to make fear the problem. It's not really a problem until it becomes a problem. So we don't want to resist fear. And I think that's what a lot of people, that's where they're coming from, is they resist fear. Well, if you resist fear, you're just pushing up against it, which actually strengthens it. So we don't want to strengthen fear by resisting it. We want to acknowledge when we experience fear that this is a part of us. This is an important function of who we are. And right away, when you don't resist fear, immediately you can feel it. It's like there's some space that opens up and things get a little bit easier. They become a lot more manageable when we don't resist fear. We just allow it, we experience it, and we ask ourselves, okay, what's going on here? What is this fear response that I'm experiencing? Is it bringing my attention to something that's really important? Or is it completely unfounded? Is it a feeling that's being triggered by something that's actually not threatening me, which happens a lot. Again, though, just because it might be a misfire doesn't mean we want to push the fear away or resist it, because like I said, that will only make it stronger. And that really brings us to step 2. When you experience fear, ask yourself, is there really something here to fear? If it's a fear of flying, well, statistically speaking, anything can happen, but it's so unlikely that the plane's going to crash and that you're going to die. So that's not a really rational, realistic fear. Think about skydiving. Even still, even though it is kind of dangerous, it's completely voluntary, you don't need to do it. If you look at it statistically speaking, it's not something to be really afraid of. And then there are things like public speaking. There are things like socializing, and we've experienced a lot of these fears, and they probably come from when we were much younger, being humiliated, and then we carry that fear around with us, and then we're in these social situations and we start to experience anxiety, and so we have to ask ourselves, is there really anything here to be afraid of? So we want to get clear about, is there real danger, and is there not? And there can be. And if there is, then we need to really assess that. Is what I'm doing right now that I'm experiencing fear, is there some real danger here that I need to take note of? So if we block out that fear, we might not notice that. And this is important to notice. And then we also want to know for sure, is there a rational reason to be afraid of something? And most of the time, there's not. We just want that understanding. I know that understanding alone will not make the fear go away, but we're doing our due diligence. We want to make sure if there's something we need to pay attention to, that we're paying attention to it. And we want to know if it's not a reasonable fear, that we can let that go. The next part of this is to take note of what are those fear responses. So does it make me shake? Okay, that's part of the fear response. It makes me shake. And then I check in with myself. Is it making my heart beat faster? Am I breathing faster? Is my stomach feeling queasy or nauseated? Am I getting red flashes in my ears? Is the hair on my neck standing up? So we want to take note of what exactly is the fear response in my body, in your body. And you can go as far as writing this down. And it serves a really, really important purpose. It will give you distance from the fear. Breaking it down into the actual fear responses, well, it's more like you're observing what's happening. You're observing the fear, which will give you additional space. So you're not resisting the fear, you're observing it, and you're even taking note of what is happening here. So writing it down would be a good idea, because again, you're sort of breaking it down and analyzing it. And so when you break it into its parts and you're more observing it, like I said, it gives you more space to breathe, and the fear lightens. Now, the third part is the most important part. Now that you're not in the fearful situation, but you're very clear about what those fear responses are, now you're going to voluntarily make them happen. If the fear response that you get to a particular situation, one that you're not in now, but one that you might be in the future, or one that causes you anxiety or fear, like when you're in a social situation, in the comfort of wherever you are, not in that situation, look at that list of the fear responses, the physical fear responses that you experience, and recreate them. If your hands shake, then shake your hands. If your heart beats fast, well, you might not be able to beat your heart fast, but you can breathe faster. So you can, breathe more shallow, and do everything that you can to voluntarily reenact the fear mechanism, the fear triggers, the fear, whatever the fear responses are. So do that. And once you start to do that, take it even further and exaggerate them. Now, you might be wondering, what are you getting at? And you want to know what this all does before you go and do it. So there's two different ways you could do this. You could stop the video right now, go do all that, and then come back. Otherwise, I'm going to spoil this for you. I'm going to tell you what it is that happens here. So what happens when you voluntarily do things that feel involuntary, you start to realize how much control you have over this. What feels out of control is your fear responses when you're in the moment. So if you think about when you experience fear, it probably feels like it's out of your control, like the heavy breathing, the heart beating fast, the hands shaking, whatever it is. So now what we're doing is we're reenacting it so that it does feel like it is within your control, because you can voluntarily make it happen. And then we take it even further and we exaggerate it. And so exaggerating it has the sense of making it sort of playful, almost like a caricature. And so it just takes it to another level. And if you can, take it to the level of absurdity. And what happens when you do that? Well, it changes the way that you think about it. It will reframe the way you think about this fear as not as big of a deal as it is. You might still experience a little bit of fear, but when it happens again, when it gets triggered, you're going to remember having voluntarily created. You're going to remember having taken it well beyond the what would be something that would actually happen, to the point of being absurd. So when that happens again, you will likely think of it as being absurd. You will likely think of it as being laughable. Give it a try. I can't guarantee that it'll work for you in all situations. I did another video about overcoming fear a few years ago. I'll link it to this one. I think these two work really well together. And it's just nice to have additional tools to work with your fear so that you're not just stuck with one thing. You can try out different things. Sometimes certain techniques or processes don't work. So you have something else that you can use as well. If you're ready to take the next step in your life and you're ready to put fear behind you and stop letting fear get in the way of you really taking charge of your life and living your life to the fullest, I recommend that you take this very quick assessment. It's an assessment that will show you what's really important to you and will show you where is a great place for you to start in your life. Whatever area of your life it feels like it's lacking or is unfulfilled, whether that's your career, that's your relationship, what have you, this assessment will help you identify that and will help you take those next steps. You can find that in the description right here down below. You'll see that there's a link. Just click that link and you can do the assessment. It's absolutely free. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button and the bell so you'll be notified when I put new videos out. And last but not least, if you can think of a friend or a family member who would benefit from this video, make sure you share it with them. Take care.